Welcome back everyone. So in the last video, we solved array reduced transformations, and in this video, we are going to solve function composition. So let's dive in. Okay, so we are given a array of functions. Okay, we have to return a new function fn, that is function composition of array of function. So the function composition of an array which contain three functions is a new function. So first we'll call the hx function, that is the last function, and the result of that function is passed to g function, that is the last second function, and finally the result of that function is passed to the first function. Okay, so that's the composition of the given array of functions. Now the function composition of empty list of function is the identity function that return the same value. So for example, if this function's array is empty, then the return function should return the same value x. Okay. Now you may assume each function in the array accept one integer as an input and return one integer as an output. So since we are receiving x as an input, then it's given in the question that all these functions will also take one input. So let's see first example. So in the first example, we are given an array of functions. So these are the arrow functions. So first function, second function, third function, and we are given value of x. Now as per the composition function, we are also given the information about that here. So how should we call those functions? So first we'll call h, then the value of that is passed to g, and then the value of g is passed to f. Similarly here we are given x is 4, so this x4 is passed to this function, that will be 4 into 2 8. Then that 8 is passed to this function, 8 into 8 64. Then that 64 is passed to this function, that is 65. So final result is 65. Let's see example 2. In example 2, we are given 1, 2 and 3 functions, and the value of x is 1. So x is passed here, that will be 10. Then that 10 is passed to this function, that is 10 multiplied 10, 100. And that 100 is passed to this function, that is 100 multiplied by 10, that is 1000. So the output is 1000. In the example 3, since there is no functions, the value x41, 42 is returned as it is. So now if functions, so there is no functions, then we'll return x as it is. Else what we'll do is we'll iterate over each function in the reverse order. Okay, so what we'll do is for let I is or x dot length -1, I is greater than equal to 0, and I minus minus. Now we will call the last function, and what will be the last function? That is at I. So this is the last function, and we'll call this function for what? X. Now the return value, we'll store the return value in X itself. Okay. Now what's happening here is, this is the initial value. We'll call the last function or the function at I. So initially I is the last index. So last function is called with the value of X. Now that function, so here I is the 2. So the last function is called with the value of X, and that function will return some value. That value again will store in the X. Now the next time index will be 1. So we will call the G function with the value of the last return function value that we have stored in the value X. Okay. Similarly, it will keep on calling all the functions. Okay. Now after calling all the functions, we'll return what? X. So one more thing, we don't need this check here. Now let me tell you why. Let's say the functions is an empty array. So x dot length is 0 minus 1, that is -1, and I should be greater than equal to 0. So this loop will not execute even once. Okay. And if it doesn't execute even once, then we'll return x, and that's what the question says, that if the function's composition of empty list is passed, then we have to return an identity function, which means that we have to return the x itself. Okay. And that's what we are doing. Now let's see the result of this function. Okay, so the first two test case has been failed. Now let's see the reason. um, functions length minus 1 I should be greater than equal to 0, and will reduce the value of I, and functions at I will pass the value of x, and then we'll store the value in x only, and then we'll return x. Okay, output is 4. Sorry, this should not be x dot length, it will be functions dot length. Okay, so 3 test case has been passed. Now I'll submit this. Okay, so our solution got accepted. So now let me tell you what we have done. Now you can see in the description, first the hx will be called, then gx, and then fx. So what we did is we are iterating the functions array in the reverse order. So we make sure that we'll call the last function first. So this is a function, okay? We call this function with the value of x, and this function will return something that we again store in the x. Now the next time, last second function will be called, that is this function, and this function is passed the value of x. This x is the value that the last function has returned. So we store all these value in the x. So we are updating the value of x, and finally we will return x. If no functions or the empty array is passed, then this for loop will not run, and we simply return the x. That's it.